Osimhen wants the Premier League, and Manchester United might be the club that finally gets him there. Zirkzee could be on his way out the door, and United already have a shortlist ready to replace him. And just when you think the striker saga can't get any messier, a surprise midfield name suddenly pops onto the radar. This one detail could reshape the entire summer at Old Trafford. Stay with me, because by the time this video ends, you'll know exactly why United's front line is about to look unrecognisable, and why a bargain bin midfielder just crashed the conversation out of nowhere. Let's dive straight in. But first, a bit of background, because the striker headlines only make sense once you understand what United were actually chasing all summer. Attack wasn't even the starting priority. Midfield was. Casemiro is out the door, and Manuel Ugarte picked up a nasty injury at the 2026 World Cup that left Kobbie Mainoo as practically the only recognised defensive midfielder left in the squad. Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount can fill in for a game here or there, but that's not a real solution, that's damage control. United knew it, and they moved. Diego Leon and Youri Tielemans arrived in a deal worth roughly £85 million combined. Karl Darlow joined on a free transfer from Leeds to add depth in goal. Tottenham's Tyler Thompson signed for around £8 million. That's genuine spending, genuine intent, and it still wasn't enough, because United are hunting one more specialist number 6, a player whose entire job is to sit, screen, and protect the back line, and that search is exactly where the chaos begins. Here's another wrinkle. United are back in the Champions League for the first time since 2023-24, and that changes the whole squad-building calculation. More fixtures, more rotation, zero room for a threadbare position. A defensive midfield shortage is survivable in a season without European nights. It becomes a genuine crisis when you're grinding through Tuesdays in Europe on top of a full league schedule. That's why this search hasn't stopped even with 2 fresh midfielders already through the door. So where does that leave things? Osimhen has scored 59 goals in 74 appearances for Galatasaray. Read that again, that's not a misprint. That's a ridiculous return for a striker in his first season away from home. And even with numbers like that, even fully settled in Istanbul, his camp is still fielding calls from England. Why does that matter for United? Because insiders say Osimhen is their genuine dream signing, not a name buried on a spreadsheet, the actual top choice. United want a proven, experienced number 9 to push Benjamin Sesko, challenge him daily, and raise the standard at Carrington. Osimhen ticks every box, and this isn't a fresh development either. He was already deep in talks with Chelsea earlier this year before that move fell apart over wages. Now it's United circling instead. But here's the complication, and it's a big one. Galatasaray are demanding at least €100 million before they leave in open talks. On top of that, he's the highest earner at the club, and United are actively trying to move away from handing out enormous contracts. So this deal is far from simple, and Osimhen isn't the only striker story swirling around Old Trafford right now, because there's already a forward inside the building whose future looks shaky. Joshua Zirkzee, 2 seasons, £36.5 million, only 9 goals to show for it. Those numbers speak for themselves, and exit talk is turning into genuine interest. Juventus have made inquiries. 2 more Premier League clubs have taken a look. Ajax briefly checked in too, though that angle is cooling fast now that Marcus Leonardo and Toure Rokadiri have already filled that kind of gap elsewhere. It gets even more specific. Zirkzee's representative, Kia Joorabchian, is working the Italian market hard. Juventus and Como are both circling. Roma have also been mentioned. One Italian outlet summed it up neatly: Serie A is the league where Zirkzee looked most at home, and he'd reportedly welcome a return. There's even a specific name pushing for it at Juventus, with sporting figures there described as long-time admirers who apparently tried to sign him back in January already. But here's the sticking point that really matters: every one of those Serie A suitors wants a loan, and United want a permanent sale. That gap alone could decide whether this deal happens at all. So if Zirkzee genuinely leaves, what's the plan? This is where United fans should sit up, because 2 ready-made replacements are already on the shortlist, and neither is a project: Dusan Vlahovic and Ali Watkins. Vlahovic is a free agent right now, 26 years old, contract with Juventus fully expired. Besiktas were floated as an option, and their own sporting director actually addressed it publicly, saying that if Vlahovic wants one of Europe's big 5 leagues, Turkey simply isn't part of that conversation. Blunt, almost resigned. He also noted Vlahovic's best form came under Vincenzo Italiano at Fiorentina, and the 2 are still close. But then came the real line: players don't choose a manager first. They choose a contract first, and Vlahovic is expected to want a big one at a club competing in the Champions League. Sound like anyone you know? United could offer exactly that. Quick pause if you're enjoying how these transfer threads keep connecting. Hit subscribe, because United's window has a lot more twists still coming. Then there's Watkins, Aston Villa's talisman. He's been tied to Old Trafford for months, but Villa won't hand him over easily, especially after already banking a fee for Morgan Rogers heading to Chelsea. Expect a serious asking price. Right now, neither Vlahovic nor Watkins is being actively pursued. United are holding back, watching how the Zirkzee situation unfolds first. But that could shift quickly, quicker than most expect. Consider what each name really offers. Vlahovic costs nothing in transfer fees, just wages and an agreement, which is tempting for a club trying to spend smarter. Watkins costs a real fee but already knows the Premier League inside out. One is the gamble, the other is the safer bet. United haven't tipped their hand yet, but the fact both are on the same shortlist tells you this decision is still wide open. Now shift away from the attack because the midfield story is moving just as fast, and it isn't all going smoothly. Diego Leon and Youri Tielemans are already in, both proven at Premier League level, with Tielemans carrying the bigger top-flight resume of the two, but United still want that dedicated number 6, our alien Tcouameni. Manu Kone and Carlos Baleba all remain in the mix. Tielemans brings top-tier pedigree from his Aston Villa years. Leon brings upside and long-term potential. Together they cover different needs, but neither is the specialist screen United actually set out to sign. That gap is still wide open, and it might be the single piece that decides how balanced this midfield looks by the time August ends. And here's a genuine surprise. TalkSport report United are weighing a move for Tyler Adams, reportedly viewed internally as a cheaper alternative to Tcouameni, Camavinga, or Kona budget route to the same solution. Bournemouth, though, are shutting that talk down fast, dismissing reports of a £35 million valuation as nowhere near realistic and insisting they have no interest in selling at all. Adams has been a genuine workhorse for Bournemouth since joining from Leeds in 2023, 80 Premier League appearances, over 6,000 minutes, 2 goals, 5 assists. He also played a key role helping the USA reach the last 16 as co-hosts of this summer's World Cup. He's contracted until 2028, so Bournemouth are under zero pressure to negotiate. If United want him, expect to pay well past whatever figure is currently being floated. United are also still monitoring the left-back spot, with Newcastle's Lewis Hall staying firmly on the radar if they go down that road. So let's put it all together, because there's a lot in motion at once. United could lose Zirkzee, could land a ready-made striker in either Vlahovic or Watkins, could still be chasing the Osimhen dream if the fee ever becomes workable, could lose out on Alex Scott to Chelsea, could pull off a surprise value move for Tyler Adams, and Lewis Hall is still hovering in the background at left-back. That's 6 separate storylines running simultaneously, and deadline day is still weeks away. None of it is confirmed. None of it is dead either. Here's the bigger picture worth remembering. This is shaping up to be a season defined by one philosophy: spend smarter, not just bigger. Fewer bloated contracts, more calculated bets, proven top-flight quality over reputation alone. That pattern runs through both the striker hunt and the midfield search. Whether that mindset actually lands a genuine number 9 and a real number 6, or just shuffles the same problem into next window, that's the question worth asking. Think back to where United stood just 2 summers ago: huge fees, huge wages, players who never delivered consistency. Zirkzee is part of that same story. Now compare it to this window: a free agent striker being seriously weighed instead of a marquee fee, a discount midfielder being measured against pricier names, loan proposals being rejected instead of accepted just to push a deal through. That's a genuinely different approach behind the scenes. Whether it's the right one, nobody will know until deadline day actually hits, and honestly, not until these players are proving it on the pitch in a United shirt. So here's what I want to know. Is Osimhen actually worth that asking price? Does Vlahovic make more sense than Watkins? And could Tyler Adams end up being the smartest signing nobody's talking about? Drop your take below, because this window is only just getting started.